Hello, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I got
So,
count.
so what I
Hi,
thought is
Richard.
if I go back to your picture of the waste, yeah,
Okay,
and you say this is from the businesses and stuff, and you end up with all this thing, okay?
yes.
So now imagine something uh like what I'm screen sharing here, here, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
something like this, where the bricks is your border of waste. You use the waste to contrast against the plants that you can put in. Do you follow? Yeah?
Yeah.
You
I'm
dig a
following.
little trench here for the waste. And what you do is you get the businesses and says, sponsor us. And we'll tell you for sponsoring. And what you do is you invite people along and to learn to be part of the activity, to have a kind of like an activity day where they go and beautify an environment, they pay for some of the fees and stuff, and they plant trees and saplings and things. And if we can work out the details and so on a little bit later and stuff, you then have a little placard from the businesses saying sponsoring whatever it is, and you bring out this thing is waste is not waste. Why are
Mm-hmm.
you throwing it away? Do you follow?
Yeah.
You bring out the idea. You're not here just to collect the waste. You're here to educate people not to throw waste away. Something like
Mm-hmm.
waste is not waste. Why are you throwing it away? With a sign in there that you can put up and things, or you can just tell people, do it so that it's not just as you go along. There are loads of these sort of what do you call them? Can you look some up? Uh, Richard, can you help?
Looking. I'm looking.
Uh, can I ask?
Yeah.
Um, you see, there is a. I don't know. I know you of course know the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable products.
Yep.
So what do you think of plastic bags that do not rot? You still assemble them? Do you burn them
That's
or do you?
perfect for here. You see, this is perfect for here. Because
Yes.
what you do in that paper, for example, it talks about how they can let water go through quickly, right? And
Uh-huh.
stick like a foot in there. They're not degradable, they're just there. So it forms like a fairly permanent boundary.
Yes.
So you have a trench that's like, say, a foot deep, or 20 centimeter to a foot deep, and that becomes like a nice boundary. And you don't actually have to care about whether it's degradable or not.
Mm-hmm.
For this, because all you're doing is you're making a point that you can use it. Even the stuff that you don't think of, whether it's biodegradable or otherwise, you can use. And then you can go into things like your natural organic waste versus non-organic waste and all the other things. But what it does at the moment is from this point of view is you want to be able to turn this activity, even with the people who go there, and turn it into something which is more than just collecting waste. Because the problem when you go and collect waste is it looks very nice, and then someone else throws some more out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go again. So if I look around here, there's one tree and there are things, but you can maybe plant some stuff and turn in. So the car tires, yeah, uh, car tire garden. It's this sort of thing. Come on, you can do better than that. Do you see this? Yeah, or the car tires. So car tire here that I saw down here can become like this or become like this. It's not degradable, but it's usable.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing it, actually.
Do you follow?
Yeah, I'm following.
So you can actually do this and that, and then you can actually, this is an education activity, so you can charge people to be a part of it, come and find them and create their own.
Yeah.
And
And then again, now another concern is considering that going by the fact that these things are in town,
yeah,
it can also arise a question in this essence, where do you get that space? Like you know how towns look like, and sometimes you find that there is for example, there is a channel for the sewage. You find the sewage is mixed up with plastic bags and all that kind of stuff. And I think that is in that picture. In that picture, if you look at, if you could just go back to it, the one that you're just using.
This thing.
No, the other one for WhatsApp, the one I had shared with you.
Yeah. I'm looking at the houses there. Okay.
Yeah, this is if you zoom. Could you zoom a little bit? Now, if you look at that, where the rakes, if you see where the rakes are,
yes,
that one is actually, this is a mixture of how do I call it? There is a mixture of biodegradable and non-biodegradable in one place, and now they have this kind of rotting and all that. So I'm not sure. You see the structure next to the girl with the white glove?
Yes, this one.
This one, yeah, this one. This one is a stage for like a motorbike stage, something of the sort.
Yep.
So what I'm not trying to understand is now the space for kind of what do you call it? It that one look like kind of gardening or something of the sort.
Yeah, but let me take a look here. Let me say the following. So this space here,
yes,
my cursor, yeah, next to the motorbike.
Yes.
That looks like it's an empty space because the rubbish is piling in here anyway.
Yes.
And that is probably there. So if you form a border around it, around a space like this, it can become, you grow tomatoes or something.
Yeah.
You can put an avocado tree here.
Uh-huh.
Do you see?
Yes.
And the spaces here, they're quite tightly packed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But some of this thing here can be off here. You can hang something off to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can place it in front a little bit, just little borders. So little borders, but what you want to plant in a place like this are things which are useful for them. So if you think about, I don't know whether mosquito is a problem, but when you talked last time about trees that can help with mosquitoes,
Mm-hmm.
so they can border some of these things. And if it gets very hot, depending on which side you plant, you get more shade.
Yeah, I think we will try this. We will do this on the upcoming activity.
Yeah, and around them you can have vegetables and smaller plants, right?
Yes.
So what you can then do, because you do this, it then can become either the planting and you grow and you go along and you tell the people, this is what they are. Here's a box. When you have it, you get them. You can have some of the producers. You can sell some. If you sell some, put some money in here because we need funding too.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't look like they have a lot of money, but you can do it that way around. If you plant an avocado tree and in a year it grows to 200 avocados, you can do that. And then you can go to the businesses and says, if you say the waste comes from the businesses and things, is that actually we can put a sign in the business to advertise that you're doing. So it's really making it quite informative and quite colorful in a way. The color can come from the plants themselves, or or people can then try and there might be different bits of stuff. So what I'm saying is that if you just collect this, you end up with the next problem. What do you do with it? Where do you get rid of it? And what I'm trying to say is, what you want is the message that waste is not waste. Why are you throwing it away? By using it. And does that make sense to you? Kaka or comments?
Oh, it really does.
So it's a different way of looking at it. And the tires, if there are lots of tires, they're fantastic. They form these lovely little borders, and you can do those things. And then you can think about how it goes. What you don't want is to necessarily grow vegetables directly on top of the waste, but you can certainly sort of sufficiently ring around and do those sort of things, and you start thinking about, well, how does water flow and all those stuff that people care about. And I think if you started, what happens is you change people's minds about what they can themselves do. And that's kind of the idea. Because they're already participating, they see beautiful, colorful things, right, all around. Do you see? And that looks like a gutter, a gully. Is that a kind of like a sewer gully? Over here? I think you muted along. But that looks like it's a sewer gully, and that can be hugely useful because human feces can be great fertilizers. You tend want to sterilize them a bit first to make sure it's secure and safe. But if it's just running like this, you've got that problem anyway. And if you're in a hot place, I think that there's so much you can do with direct solar power, which people don't think of. And you can use that basically to boil up the water, recondense it, and you end up with a different sort of cycle of water that's cleaned in that way. So if they're doing that along this path and raking it along, what we're sort of basically saying is, there's a dip here already anyway. It looks like it's trying to bury it. Is you make these things into little borders of green, potentially. And you can think about how that might be depending on what sort of things there are. There's obviously a lot of trees already, so some things depend on the type of situations where you are, the kind of height of things that you might do.
Yeah, sure.
And there are lots of sort of urban garden. And you can these are the kind of vertical walls people try and do. Every now and then you get some big stuff.
And my phone is going off. I don't have charge. I think I have to look for a charge.
Well, don't worry. I mean, that's what comes to mind. Okay, when I saw your pictures of waste, was what can we actually do with that waste? And then to get that message out there that why are you throwing away? To be able to get that message out there. And a lot of these things, where people are trying to do clever things, you don't need to be particularly clever. So some of it, this is showing how you can grow little saplings with yogurt cups, but I don't think you have many yogurt cups in your waste in that way. But that's really, this is a rich man's solution to trying not to throw things away. But that's
exactly.
it's just not, it's just not real. So I think the environment and things, And it's really helpful actually seeing those houses and things around, and seeing some of these, because I get a better sense of, what does it look like and things. And so it becomes a case of actually, working with communities along and thinking actually what would work, what might make sense. But in terms of space, you just need little bits of space. And there might be more ways that you have to deal with, but at least turn some of it into that. And then that sort of raises the question for people. And could be used in different ways. So effectively end up reusing a lot of the things in some form. I don't know how people will take it. But in the end, you can't, you have to address the next question, which is why are they produced? And that's where a different sort of economics can come from. So within where you have here, there are different ways by which you can develop essential economics about this, and you can sort of get people to sponsor the activity or get people involved as part of some activity along. There are for youths. I don't know what this is. This is probably not right. Is kind of running camps and things, right? So because I think the difference in the element between what you're doing when you go out there yourself to try and say we're going to clean up the waste, and what I'm talking about is an element of education. And I'm trying to find some, there are all sorts of environment camps in the UK or something. So this here is the sort of eco-actives in environment education. So they do eco workshops, secondary workshops, inspire young people to become agents, and they go there. Generally, there's a lot of sort of planting, but you deal with the situations of where you are and stuff. One-off workshops, consumption 1 hour, plastics 1 hour, and it does some workshop to people about what they do, and in this case, they get people to donate. Other places, they get people to, these people pay to go into the workshop and learn about things, learn about some of these stuff. And workshop fees. So, 181 session per visit, and secondary workshops are that. And this goes into schools. Kind of thing. So that's one side, and then the other side is actually being able to generate an economics out of it rather than just asking for people. I mean, that is part of it, but you also want to be able to say, if you plant avocados, you can use avocados. Rotting plants, and if the source comes from people, comes from business community around it, then you actually should access them back for some of the costs. If you guys are still there.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I'm just sort of saying, looking at an example like that, collecting waste and looking at the saplings and things, what came to mind was to step back a little bit. What came to mind was this bit of you get these nice borders around what do you call them? Garden borders, edging. You use it as a creative way of thinking about edging. But you have to make the inside of it look nice, something like that. And so you create a contrast. You create a contrast between something that people look at and think, wow, that's really nice, on the outside of it, and says, why are you throwing it away? Well, that's just a shop. That didn't work. But yeah, I think you get sort of the.
I'm sure.
The idea. And then different ideas will tend to come, because what's going to come is what do you put inside. And as a result, what has happened is the waste helped you to think how to use space, how to use the. So going back, there's always little bits. So here along the gully, on this edge here, underneath this corrugated cardboard along there, what can be done as a result once you start thinking of that? And here's a path along, that's a road there. So maybe you actually end up doing something along, and then there are things like paper and plastics. You can make things like there you go. You can make a lot of furniture from waste, but so that's just sort of making new furniture out of bits and pieces. But I've seen more things of making chairs and stuff from it. And my mum used to make chairs out of bits of paper and stuff. And so it just sort of changes the idea a bit. And the key really is, if you can get together with a little bit of art, it makes a big difference. So it becomes like an art kind of activity. Where's that thing that we went to? Respace. I don't think my internet has been.
What has happened?
I'm trying to find someone who made paper from furniture from paper, but I can't find it. That I came across. Craft toy. Garden sparkle for the mark. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about a bit was really thinking about how do we make use of kind of the saplings and things, and one of the stuff that came to mind with what you just posted along is actually some of these things can, it can just fit into all sorts. Oh, that's my cat. I don't know what's going on there. Why don't you guys tell me something, and then we can talk. Mary, how are you? I'm David. That's Richard. I'm going to stop sharing.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So tell me about what do you think I was talking about? Does it, where does it not make any sense?
So I just came in as you were explaining. So I think you were talking about how to make use of the waste after it's been collected. I really didn't get the other part because I came in when you had already begun.
Yeah. So we started basically. I mean, where we come, what we wanted to talk about was how do you actually make the things that you do into an activity that provides you and other people with livelihoods. And we wanted to, and then we weren't sure what we were going to do. We wanted to understand a bit more about what you do. And Kaka mentioned about a cleaning thing. And he talked, and so what I'm going to start sharing screen again. And what I'm going to do is hopefully we'll be able to go through the thought process, and maybe you can just join in with that as we talk, and don't, just interrupt as we speak. And he was initially saying, well, can we not have this meeting yet and have it after he does the cleanup thing? And he's got various banners and says, this is what we need during the cleanup banners and stuff. And he sent these pictures. And it collects a lot of, obviously, there's a good chunk of waste. And I started asking, what kind of waste is that? And started thinking, what can you do with it? And I thought, well, actually, can you plant on it? Is that something you can do? I don't know if they are things where you can plant where plants will grow, but it's a mixture of rotting material, and rotting material generally are things that you can use. But in some ways, it takes too long to see whether it will plant. And so I first talked about how it's garbage. The ground tends to be bare. So in a lot of paint photos I've seen that have been sent, the ground is very bare. And I'm thinking, well, can you create cover plants? And, I think, can I use the rubbish to make islands of wild plants to be ground cover? Maybe there's some sort of animal feces and other things already in it. And in that case, that's actually, nutrients for plants. And if it's a business community that's leaving it there, it can become an education program that, they can sponsor in some ways about how to make the environment, and becomes an environment activity. And you can kind of turn what you're doing into an education activity, and maybe bring in other people. I thought, maybe a singles day even, or whatever it is, which is really just a matter of how you organize it and how you make it into something that can be like that. Come and meet friends and influence each other. And then I found this piece, which is on the effects of plastic fragments. It's going to open. My laptop is overheating.
Is it?
Yeah, it's slowing down. Sign that it's overheating. It can't even blow that up. Okay, so I'm not sure how much of this you see. There's a paper on the effect of plastic fragments on plants, are mediated by soil property and drought. So it talks about plastic contaminants, and conduct a couple of experiments, see the effects of fragments of different sizes on water availability, soil texture, and what happens with that. And it basically finds that, sometimes in certain situations, it allows water to go through better. In others, it just takes away too much of the nutrients you need. So depending on what it is, it can be beneficial because it can help plants grow easier. The roots can go through, because if it's clay-rich soil, it's very hard for plants to go through. And then the plant performance, you get different sort of things. So I started thinking, actually, you know what? Waste is not waste, basically, depending on what type and so on. And then I thought, actually, and then I talked a bit with, exchanged the conversation with Kaka a bit about it. And I was saying, you know, combination of mixing rotten plastics, animal feces, other organic waste, and soil depth about a foot or two. And you get a light scattering on top, would make nursery beds that kind of, you know, can help capture water and everything. And then, you know, but ultimately what you want to do is to make people stop dropping the waste. So you ultimately what you want is there's no waste to clean up because there is no waste. And that goes to, you know, you're caught in the situation where the picture shows very clearly there's a lot of stuff you have to do that. So what's the best way in which you can actually go to cleaning it up and helping people think about the fact that waste should not be seen as waste and why are you throwing it away, and maybe be able to make some money for yourselves in your efforts to do it, and help support, you know, your university fees and help to support the community and other things. So we ended up, Richard and I ended up thinking about bordering plants with waste. Odd thing. Because bordering gardens usually create plants, create borders, and borders are normally done with very nice things along. So you have raised beds and you have kind of stones to be borders, paths, and this is with stones here along in that way there. And it essentially gives you a separation. And one of the easiest is sort of tree bordering. And there are the metal rings, there are things like this along there. But you know, you have like a ring like this. And I just thought, well, what happens if you dug a trench, say like this, that's about, you know, a foot deep or something, and you dug around there, you plant a sapling in, you get someone to sponsor a sapling or to go along, and you put a message on it, you know, happy birthday, whatever. Or on it, you basically have also the message that waste is not waste, why are you throwing it away? Along. So you make a real contrast between something which is living and very beneficial. So you could plant a, you know, I'm not sure what kind of trees, maybe a nice flowering tree, or maybe something that provides fruit that you can have, or mango tree, or whatever it is, that is easy to grow along, and you create the border. And then Kaka says, well, where can you find spaces? This is urban. I ended up in this shed here. You know, this is probably a gap that's ignored. But there are a lot of little spaces along. And then maybe even along the paths somewhere, it becomes like a border between the traffic and people, potentially. And you can have little spaces along. It doesn't have to be continuous. You just have, you know, kind of like, you know, 3 feet and some other way along. And you can try it and see. And if you end up, so you sort of combine the different activities into basically saying, it's not just cleaning the waste, it's how do you enhance the whole overall sort of environment. So people, so these look quite tight along here, but there's often sort of little bits of space and other things that might be possible. I think that, you know, these places must be really hot, right? Are they really hot inside?
Yeah, it is hot. It's hot.
Because these are corrugated iron, isn't it?
Yeah, because of course it's kind of a compost heap. So of course it's been staying there for quite a while. So they're then trying to break it out so that they can find a way of collecting it and probably look for a better way of disposal. So yeah, it's hot. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, heat can be a great thing. You know, if you sort of think about capturing it to use as opposed to just have it bearing down on you, and those sort of things can all sort of come along as you start thinking, oh, what can we do, and what's possible. It becomes it all becomes like resources. Just like this, to me, is in a way a kind of a resource. And if you think about just the saplings you have, and then I don't know how much water there is around, and then obviously we want to think about, well, there's obviously enough for some of these big trees along. There's plenty of trees around. And there seems to be no leaves. And is that because this is that particular time of the year? Do you know why these trees have no leaves?
Yeah, I think it's because some of them shed because of the season, and also it's all depending the kind of the tree. There are trees that does not have enormous leaves and such. I think it has got leaves. In fact, if you try to zoom, it has got some flowery, purplish. It just is type. It's a design of a tree. The species looks like that. It does not normally have big leaves, but of course the season has some maybe shed. Maybe it needs to be shed.
So you know, you've got all sorts of things about what kind of things would be right to plant, between ornamental, for food, to for shelter, and other things like that. So
but I think for this particular coming up cleanup, because we're also thinking of working on you see, we've also identified places we're going to plant trees within the town. So for this particular cleanup, we're also trying to, create kind of hedge. I don't know if that's the right word, but we want to, like, where there's a roundabout, we want to do some flowering and all that. We have identified some spots, and I think that one will be covered on the concept and all that. So it's going to be a whole.
What's going to happen in terms of, when you do this? Is someone paying you? Is there some grant that you get for doing it, or is there some?
No. The guys who sit there, the majority of us are this volunteer. Like, this program are not paid for, but of course, in terms of logistics, how that trash is exported from one place to another, of course, maybe also, and maybe in other areas, like, for example, maybe refreshment for that youth group, maybe PPEs, like those gloves you see them wearing. Those are the only areas that maybe sacks for collecting that rubbish, maybe before you, of course, dispose them to a different part. That is maybe the only place that we need. But purely we are doing this because majorly most of us are passionate about, climate restoration.
You want to make a difference between paying people to clean up rubbish, which generally is often not a good thing. Very often what happens when people pay to do rubbish is there's more rubbish. They just think because someone's being paid to clean it up. Versus paying for education. Kind of people can come involved. And so very often what you find is that you have activities where people actually pay to join, to be involved. And they get taught and they learn about what's going on and those sort of things. And it all goes towards being able to support itself and things. And then if you go along and you actually create something with it, like what I'm trying to describe, is you use it effectively for businesses to advertise their participation in that way. So the messaging needs to be fairly careful, in the sense that it's not about paying someone else to clean away your rubbish, but it's about participation and paying and learning and education, and actually what comes out. And, you know, just as we were talking, I don't know if this works, but it's just an idea of saying, supposing there's not necessarily that much, and you say this is urban, but if you end up helping people to, say, grow vegetables and things and stuff, and they take it to market to sell, or whatever it is, you know, it can become a donation for you know, EACGN or whichever group might be, from that back as helping along with that thing, or for a while, or in some ways. But that kind of engagement along is kind of a looser sort of contract, as it is very social focused in that way. It's very, very much focused about the community, and the monetary economics and the value economics derives from building up that community. And that's what you're doing here. The only part you know, the reason for this call and the point I want to make along with this is, if you don't build that economics into it, you're going to run into deep trouble, because what climate change is going to do is going to make all these things very hard to do, because it's going to make resources really expensive. You know, you're going to find that people won't give you the bags anymore. You know, the bags that you're talking about down here, and, you know, the travel gets to be expensive, and everybody, they basically find that they need to spend all their time trying to build their own livelihoods. And so people are going to find it harder to do that. So you do need to incorporate the economics in there. I think, you know, the reason why Richard and I wanted to go and make this year the year we stop climate change, by addressing you guys in this way first, as opposed to normal way of making a campaign for that, is because we actually think it won't work unless communities can really know they have each other to support them. Otherwise, you're just trying to force something onto everyone else. These communities to really feel that we can come together and we can do some things like this. We had a call earlier with Morris about his community in Morangua, and it's amazing, you know, how they feel about it, and we, you know, it's still developing along. And so I think it's going to be the economics that really makes it transform. So think about it. After this, just talk between yourselves and think about how that might be. It doesn't have to be big. And the thing is, you know, the smaller is the easier in some ways. And if the people that along the street are part of that economics, in a sense, then actually that's how it really works. So for yourselves, you've got your own economics. Every student live somewhat under kind of the pressures of being able to afford living as a student, which Richard knows full well from his own children. Doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. So we understand that. So we understand also that it's very important that you can continue this. So between those ideas, I think of what we were talking about. I think going back to Mary. I think, you know, going back to what I was explaining. This is why we're talking. These are the sort of ideas that come to us in looking at a situation like this. It is telling us that there are these. It's telling us, first of all, it's telling us this is not waste. It's saying, why are you throwing it away, kind of thing. And the next thing it's saying is, how can you use it? And very often, if you just look at it as what it is, as the one thing there, it's very hard. But if you combine it with the saplings you have, then it was like, ooh, can you just put a ring around the tree, make it look pretty, and actually put a placard and says, look at the difference. Which do you want? Something that effectively does that. But to make that really work, you want that tree to be really useful for the people there. You know, if it bears fruit, then that's really useful. It keeps mosquitoes away, that's really useful. If it can be used for some other things or whatever it is. Or if it's a great climbing tree for young kids, you know, it's really useful. And then someone's going to have an idea that allows really the sort of economics to convert, to arrive. So for us, as Richard and I were talking about, is if you're going to do that, then ask businesses, maybe some of the richer businesses, and says, why don't you sponsor it? You know, as part of your environmental thing, and actually do it as a day for your customers to come and help. Offer it as something like that. And we'll educate them, pay us so much, and we'll do a program, we'll educate them, make sure that they have a really good time. Okay, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna leave you guys to talk.
So I think this is so much educative. Just considering the fact that sometimes what we consider to be a waste can actually be turned into, something else different altogether. But it's all along, a learning experience, and we have all sorts of manner of people, here, people who have got skills and all that. We have people like Philip, who is an ICT expert. Maybe through that line, we could find out how we can be able to create livelihood through what we are doing, not all sense of things. We also have Mary here, who is a vet by profession. In that order. So I think it's just the whole thing we are learning, and I think by the time we're going for the cleanup exercise, we will try to incorporate everyone to see see this bigger picture. And I think we're going to try. We'll for sure incorporate this.
Give it a try. I would say give it a try. And from us, what we want is really the stories of giving it a try. Document it. Went along, people said that 3 of them were keen, 2 of them weren't, or 20 of them were not keen. Maybe 1 of them were, one got engaged along. We tried this because that's the story. That's the thing that's really going to work in terms of telling young people in campuses and colleges across the world. It's not the success of it, but it's the steps along it. That's what's going to make the story for people to be able to follow and then say, oh, wow, yeah, we can try that too. If we only show things as successes, people tend not to follow because they think they can't do it. We have this tendency to say, here's my success, this is so beautiful. And people look at it and think, wow, they're so great. We can't do that. But it's the steps and knowing that people can take the steps, and those steps don't need to be particularly amazing as such, but it's actually just venturing forward. That's what brings people to then think, oh, we can try too. And it makes sharing much easier because you don't feel that you have to be somehow brilliant to share.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks, David and Richard. I think it's a very concept that actually we know that is being done by quite a number of groups, but I like the fact that if it can generate a simple local community practice and behavior change, especially the picture that David Kaka shared, if we can develop a concept around it, it's already something that the people around then will be a bit sensitive to know that we can turn around some a bad image picture into something aesthetic, beautiful, and in that way, already people start to realize that we don't have to keep just throwing our garbage all over.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Kaka knows this, but when you mentioned the idea about using the tires and whatever around the COVID time, I actually did a pitch desk for my startup enterprise, and the whole aspect was to come up with what I called a smart village food bank. because people are cut off from the COVID crisis. Food was a problem, and the idea was, how can we, close that gap? People have to wait for our vegetables far from, kilometers away from the city. But this concept can drive what we have like just a small circuit kind of approach, where the community around can actually now buy the vegetables and whatever it is within the local community.
Yeah,
if it's scaled up, and which I like the fact that you said educational, and then there's a component of art. We have quite a number of schools, even in Kenya International School, that actually pay. They actually can pay money to have their students come and learn.
Exactly.
Such concepts. Yes.
Exactly. I think that's really powerful. And what it does is it bridges, because those people would otherwise never visit these areas.
Yes.
And by forming that bridge, it brings the communities closer together. Because otherwise, what happens with climate change is these communities will get drawn further apart.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly the concept of art, I think, is something, Kaka, we should also explore. How do we bring art into the whole aspect of we are integrating like the kitchen garden, the planning of the neighborhood planning, so that it's just part of that journey that people can actually look at and say, we never imagined. Even the urban planning, like whatever Kaka you mentioned, how do we bring all these components within the urban planning agenda, so that people start to realize, we really have to design in the mind of this is something that people can learn. Art can contribute to climate action. It communicates, and the community can pick through can speak through the art and whatever they are doing.
I have a picture I want to
okay.
Let's see if I can bring up, if I can find it again. Can't believe I can't find it. That might be in the big picture. When was the talk we gave?
Which one?
With Kaka is here, that's it. Somewhere here. There was a picture. Oh, that's the picture. I'm going to share this picture. Not very well drawn. Well, maybe we'll see where you get it. Okay. So this is the picture where what I wanted to draw was kind of like how the land is sort of dried outside and is cracked and stuff and goes along. But actually what happens when you go along and you imagine in this situation is here you are under an umbrella and the trees and this is all very nice and outside is there. Is you start venturing out and you will start seeing the dry land outside as actually being resources. And you start seeing it that way. And I think that's the essence of what we wanted to be about. That we see resources where people would not see resources. And opportunities where people would otherwise not see opportunities. And to the education element is really bringing that along. So because the normal resources that we are used to seeing, the normal resources that our schools would tell us, these are what resources and so on are, they're going to be really expensive under climate change. So my answer, what you're talking about absolutely makes a lot of sense. And what I really want to say is, give it a try, because from my side of wanting to make 2023 the year we stop climate change, what I really want to be able to do is to have clips from you guys to showcase that we can then take out, you can then go into business events and sort of art festivals, music events, music festivals, sports competitions, or spiritual retreats and things, and actually involve an element of these things with it. So that they would be so you have a portfolio of these kind of things, and there are students in other places and young people in other places who are groups who have portfolio of these kind of things that we can then approach those sort of events and say, look, we can showcase these sort of stuff. We can, depending what they're trying to do and stuff, and help you connect with your own audiences better. Rethink that economics, rethink that connection through, and where you have that agility of thinking. And that's what we want to get round to, because that's an essential step for people to recognize that climate change means we're going to have to think about things quite differently. And that's what's going to help us to rethink the whole governance of oil, gas, and coal. Because if we just put it out there, it's too big a jump for people to really consider. And it's too big a kind of a risk to their lives without being able to see what genuinely is their lives. Which is where the joy bit comes. So anyway, what do you think? Shall we end this here for now? And I know that Kaka has run out of his battery.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm good. I'm recording these things. I'm going to download it, stick it up there, so that you can look at it and share it again. And I think the more we can try to, if you know other people, show it to other people who may be interested. Show it to other people who are going on the cleanup, and the people you can talk to. Try and get some people involved with saying some businesses involved, and say, look, will you be part of it, and think about the international schools are fantastic sort of connections. In terms of saying this is a community effort, come along, we provide education, plan a program, plan it into. We can help you plan a program. We know roughly how to do those sort of things too, so they can say, have an education day, help us make it happen. And again, there's a real distinction between paying someone to clean up your rubbish, which you do not want, and actually having people to pay to learn, and using what you create out of it as something people can use to showcase their own skills. And those are things you want to get paid for in that sense, because you are enhancing, you're bringing together a better community along. Whereas if you're just being paid to pick up the rubbish, then you're actually not really enhancing anything.
That's perfect, John.
Yeah. Richard?
No, nothing really to add there. I think it is, like David puts it out, this is an opportunity because it combines the effort of actually having to deal with the waste with getting the corporates, the businesses in the area involved. And for them, it presents itself as an opportunity to actually give back.
Yeah, and your saplings as well. They
yes,
have
of course. The basis is the saplings.
So everything connects together. That's kind of how. So yeah. Mary, Philip, any last words?
So I don't have anything more to add, just to say that I was quite happy to be able to join in, and I'm looking forward to more collaboration.
That's fantastic. Us too. Philip?
Thank you.
Any last thoughts, Philip? Okay. Okaka's back. I was just about to say any last thoughts. So. Kaka, any last thoughts?
I'm sorry, I think I just missed the last bit. Have a really a big issue here with power. Maybe one of these days you also need to think, to tackle or bring a little bit, come up with alternative ways of power, you know. Power is a challenge here, not just in Malawi, like yesterday what we experienced, but also here in Kenya sometimes we have a challenge. So I don't know, I didn't get the last part. But generally I would say that this is a practical example, and actually upon what Collins have just said, you know, like during COVID, there was that area whereby people were enclosed, you know, you're not supposed, there's no restriction and all that for movement. So, you know, people to eat was a necessity. So what was people supposed to do? You eat vegetables, but you cannot get out because the government has put measures and restriction for, you know, you to stay indoor and all that. So the idea of turning to economize the urban spaces. So there's a story building, you use a sack or anything, you put soil, you put veggies there and you grow them and you just get out of your house and get some vegetables was an ideal, and we see this works. So we just learning. You can say it's a learning experience, and for sure by the time we're moving to 3rd of March, I'm just from a school whereby I inquired to have in a secondary school to have some scouts in participation of this cleanup exercise on 3rd of March. And I think me and Mary were there, plus a few others. We will for sure do this. And what I love about what you're saying is because the part of the community is involved. You know, when the community is involved, they see the need. And when they now also shift it, and, you know, everybody will be thinking in the angle of everyone has a role to play. You know, you might not have money to pay for maybe for water or for any other necessity, but you have the energy to at least weed or do anything or put those stones and cloth and all that kind of thing. So it's a good thing, and we will move forward to do on this. We'll keep giving feedback, and there's a where I stay. We have a slaughterhouse, and there's a lot of discharge of waste, of course, from animals. You know, the waste from animals. You know how all that, the blood and all kind of things. All these things are channeled to the river. It's a sad thing, but we are trying to see also a need on the same how we can create economics out of what's been happened there. What seems to be waste can actually be turned to be something else great. Someone thought of maybe how to create energy out of that, you know, that can be used somewhere else. And I want to say, like, it's a good thing, and I'm sure my colleagues are working on this same. Yeah, and sure, soon we'll change the world through such initiatives. So I'm proud. I'm happy.
I'm going to throw a you know, water is obviously an issue, and you've said that in different things. I'm going to throw a link in there into our WhatsApp chat, so please share it with people, or I'm actually going to try and put it in the chat here. Is something called glaying. Glaying is where you naturally lined an area to turn it into a pond. So it's naturally sort of creating spaces where you can store water in a sense. And if effectively the way glaying works naturally, how ponds come, how you get land which becomes sort of impermeable to water along the way, is you have organic waste, and they become oily, and they become a layer that goes through. So if you have a slaughterhouse and the waste there is polluting your river, actually that's really valuable resource for thinking the other way of actually you can store water. It obviously needs a little bit of work and stuff, but it just says that the resource is there. Sorry, Mary.
Yeah.
I see you have your hand up.
Oh, I did that accidentally. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So this is So if you have a slaughterhouse and it's creating that, what does the waste from that slaughterhouse is actually really rich nutrients. And if you think about how soil gets richer, is through all the waste around. So it's just a matter of kind of getting the right kind of balance, the right mix, and the way it is, and how it can be used. And some part of it you need to sterilize. I was talking to Morris, and he talks about how he uses chicken feces, but he has to heat it up to 80 degrees first. If you have a lot of sun and you got a little bit of a lens or a bit of metal reflector and stuff, you can easily get to that temperature. And I was thinking that, if you go along and you get some little ceramic type, little pebbles and things, you can actually make an air fryer. It just needs 200 degrees. I'm pretty sure you can get that temperature along. So there are all sorts of kind of transformational uses of resources around, I suspect. And of course, ultimately, the reason what Richard and I were talking about before is, in order for those things to really make the progress and help you going forward, we have to stop climate change from getting worse, which is where two of us come from. Okay, are we okay just to end this? I will tidy up the recording and push that out as with the others.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, guys. And we look forward, I think, from David's and my part, to do this more often with you and brainstorm about where the possibilities are.
And please just get forward, document it, actually. Document your conversations and things, because those are the things that we can spread around and help other people appreciate. This is just what it takes.
All right. Thank you so much. But I will need us to come back sometimes. I don't know when. I want to do a presentation on what we did in Ngong town. I'll just share in terms of slides, and then you can be able to see whether that is exactly what we intended to do. So yeah, thank you so much.
And we need to talk about banners and t-shirts and things.
Yeah.
So, definitely.
Because there is you see there's a part of sensitization of the community, and I know you, David and Richard, you know how important it is also for the community to be sensitized, because I believe much of the things that we see happening today is because people don't have information, and it's all because of that. If someone has information, then I don't think that they should. So we will for sure want to make this in record time for this year, and I'm sure it's going to bring a very big impact in a journey to combat climate injustices all through. So thank you very much for everyone who participated on this. We will share these slides soon. Maybe perhaps this week, sometime back. We still have our call for Rwanda student. IL is waiting for you, so you need to prepare a date for the same. And later on, DRC Congo also wants a chat or a sim. So I want to say thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to do that too, very much. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you for now.
Thank you very much, Kaka. Right. Thank you, the rest of you guys.
Thank you for now. Bye-bye. Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.